Some films build slowly, but Waves doesn't. It crashes down, fast, loud, and overwhelming. And before you've even had time to process it, it shifts into something completely different. The first hour of the film feels like you're being pulled underwater.
You don't get it,
The second is what it means to come back up for air. Trey Edward Shults doesn't just tell a story here. He lets it fracture right in front of you. One half is about pressure, control, and collapse. The other is about what's left in the silence that follows.
People would just send me really horrible messages all the time.
And that shift, that decision to break the film into two, is what makes Waves so rare and so brilliant. Because it doesn't just explore tragedy, it explores what happens after. Waves is one of the most structurally interesting films to come out of the 2010s. It's emotionally intense, visually stylish, and it completely changes direction halfway through. The first hour is almost a psychological thriller. The second is a quiet reflection on grief and recovery. But this film isn't just a film with two tones. It's a film about emotional extremes. Control and chaos, pressure and silence, and eventually repair. The film opens by following Tyler, a high school senior athlete and a son in a middle-class suburban family in Florida. He's got a lot going for him. He's popular, athletic, has a girlfriend, a stable home, but it all exists under pressure. He is the pressure, and the film makes that pressure feel real. The camera is constantly moving, handheld, often rotating in full circles. It's immersive but also disorienting. There's barely a still shot in the entire first half. The visuals reflect Tyler's mental state. Everything is speeding up, closing in, harder to control. There's also that weight of expectation. His father, played by Sterling K. Brown, is supportive, but not in any relaxed, chill way. He pushes Tyler to be excellent, to never show any weakness, to stay ahead. But when Tyler injures his shoulder, he hides it. He doesn't want to lose what defines him. But that decision is where everything begins to unravel. He loses wrestling, starts fighting with his girlfriend, and emotionally spirals. By the time we get to the party scene, the actual turning point of the film, we're watching someone who's emotionally cornered, convinced there's no way out. And then it happens. The film reaches its peak, its climax, and breaks. After the incident, Waves does something rare. It shifts the perspective. We no longer see Tyler anymore. Suddenly, Tyler is no longer the protagonist. The camera leaves him behind, and we begin following his younger sister Emily, played by Taylor Russell. It's a hard shift, and a quiet one, and it completely changes the pace of the film. The aspect ratio shrinks, the color tone cools. There's more silence in the frame, longer takes, and more quietness, more stillness. There's not necessarily more peace in Emily's head, but we see peace navigating through the film. This isn't a narrative trick, it's a tonal reset. The film wants us to feel the difference between emotional chaos and what comes after. Emily's story is not about fixing what's happened. It's about understanding how people live with it. She has to navigate a family that's gone emotionally numb, unstable. Her parents barely speak to each other, her father has shut down completely, and she's left to process everything quietly. Where Tyler's half of the film was built on pressure and movement, Emily's half is built on observation, stillness, and emotional distance. And then slowly a new relationship starts to form between Emily and Luke, her classmate. This subplot could easily feel like a false love story, but it's not. It's handled completely carefully. It's not there to offer redemption, just connection. Two people trying to understand their own pain through someone else's. Emily's arc is about rebuilding her relationships with her family and with herself. The cinematographer uses very clear visual and audio strategies to separate these two halves. First, considering the aspect ratio, Tyler's story is wide and expansive, but it feels too claustrophobic. As things fall apart, the frame tightens. Emily's section is more boxed in, but it feels calmer. less intense. Secondly, the camera movement. In Tyler's section, it's kinetic, constantly moving. In Emily's, it's slower and more static, more observational. We wait and we consider what she's thinking, how she's feeling. Thirdly, the soundtrack. The soundtrack features artists like Frank Ocean, Kendrick Lamar, and Radiohead. Pretty popular artists. In Tyler's story, the music is loud and frequent, almost overwhelming, reflecting the current state of teenage years. Loud and apprehensive. But in Emily's, it's spaced out. Quieter moments get more room to breathe, like that scene in the cafe where she reflects on the song that's being played. This all reflects the emotional contrast between the two parts. It's not just about storytelling, it's emotional design. Waves is ultimately a film about emotional extremes, and it's not interested in resolving them neatly. It shows the reality of how things can fall apart, quickly and violently, and then asks how do people keep living after that. By shifting the perspective halfway through, it avoids moralizing or simplifying Tyler's story. Instead, it hands focus to the people affected, not him, and gives them space to heal. It's not an easy film, the structure is risky, the emotional content is also very heavy, but it works because it's completely honest. Also, I think that Taylor Russell's performance is insane. Waves is just a love story that breaks in half, but not just for the effect, and I think she pulls that effect very, very well. It breaks because the people in it do too, and in the end that's what makes it completely memorable, and almost wants you to watch it again. Now, moving to the more visual strategy of the film, Trey Edward Shults and cinematographer Drew Daniels make very deliberate choices with the camera to reflect the character's psychology. The first half of the film, Tyler's half, is visually restless. The camera is always in motion, floating, rotating. The audience is trapped in Tyler's headspace. As he's spiraling, we also spiral with him. This wasn't just a stylistic flex. Shults shot waves mostly using wide-angle lenses like 12mm and 80mm, which distort the frame slightly and make everything feel more closer, more pressing. And that's intentional. There's no more an emotional distance. You're inside the intensity, you're inside his head. But what's even more interesting is how the aspect ratio changes mid-film. The film starts in 1851, wide and cinematic. As Tyler's begin to fall apart, the frame gradually tightens to 1331, as you'll see in the intro. The almost square ratio uses in old TV or Instagram videos. It usually boxes him in. Then, during Emily's story, the ratio slowly expands again. This isn't just a visual gimmick, it's spatial storytelling. The film shrinks as the camera loses control and reopens as someone else learns how to process it. The soundtrack of Waves is one of the most defining features of his identity, which is linked to the cinematography. But it's not just there to sound good, it's a core part of the emotional structure. Shults uses strongs like dialogue. When Trent Reznor and Attic Ross's compositions finally come in, it's very subtle, but it adds to the idea that once the noise fades, the healing begins. This is a core part of the film, and I strongly recommend watching it. That's all for this week. Don't forget to subscribe and follow along for more video essays.